Hello, good afternoon, everyone. We'll wait for a few more minutes for others to join, and then we will start the session. So okay, so good afternoon everyone, and welcome to this live session 5 of the NPTEL session. This course is Environmental Impact Assessment being taught by Professor Harshit Sosan Lakra. He is Assistant Professor in Department of Architecture and Planning, IIT Roorkee, and I am Rohit. I am teaching assistant for this course. I am a PMRF scholar in IIT Bombay. So the teaching methodology remains same. We will meet every Sunday 3 to 5 p.m. and basically I encourage discussion on the various weekly topics taught in the weekly lectures. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask your questions or raise your doubts. Okay. And if anything you think is regarding the discussion, then please you can raise your hand and ask the question, or otherwise you can put it in the chat box here. So I hope it is clear to you all. You can always ask your question here if you are shy in asking questions. Okay. So don't worry. And even if the question is not related to whatever is being taught, that is also okay. I also encourage questions. Any questions can be asked. Okay. Okay. So okay. So basically in this lecture I have planned, like we'll first go with the like quick recap of the different things that are taught in the weekly lectures, and accordingly we will solve the assignment questions which are from the previous run of this course. So I have listed these assignment questions here. So before we proceed to the assignment question, let's have a quick recap, or you can say a kind of short discussion on the different things which were taught in the weekly lectures. So I'll go by lecture 1, that is lecture 1, and then 1 2 3 4 5. Okay. So if there is any question which you want to ask, please feel free to ask. Okay. So basically lecture 21, which is basically on the cultural heritage and health. So in this, I've seen that basically the professor had taught about the different cultural heritage in environmental impact assessment, and what are the different guidelines, legislation. Basically, there are a lot of things that can be considered as a culture. Okay. So basically legislation that protect type of places, particular places, like in case of India, we also see that some of the monuments which remarks, which kind of represents a culture. Okay, so similar things are there in the other countries also. So that needs to be protected, identified and protected. Okay, land management, zoning, planning acts, everything is very important in case of culture. Acts that protect natural areas. So there are different international heritage convention treaties. Yes. Sangeeta, your sound is not coming so clear. Can you repeat? Can you write it here? I am not able to hear you clearly. Okay, okay. My network. Is my voice audible to you all? I think I lost my network somehow in between. Everyone can see my video and can hear my voice clearly. Okay, okay. Thank you, Shubhankar. Think there is some restriction with the bandwidth. I think today's India Pakistan match also, so I think the speed is slow here. That's why sometimes I get. Sangeeta has said temple and old universities come under cultural heritage conservation. Exactly, Sangeeta. That's correct. Temple also anything matlab, in sense of temple you can say monuments. That's why I said monuments can be anything, temple or some tomb type of thing, mosque also. And old university, like we have lot of great universities here in India also, like Vikramshila, Takshila, Nalanda University. So they also kind of built a kind of cultural heritage. So yeah, they also come under cultural heritage convention. So in India, if you say Department of Archaeology, basically Archaeological Survey of India, ASI is there. So they actually kind of preserve and conserve all these monuments, temples, old. Some temples have boards there. Some state governments have passed an act and they have on temple boards also. So they also take care of it. So we'll don't worry. We'll actually learn more about this in the upcoming slides also. Okay. So I think in the last lecture also I was talking about some, but that was basically related to natural sites. I think geosites or something. In this week we will learn about this cultural key species. So that is also a very interesting concept. Okay. Okay, Savita. So yeah, good that you informed us, and thanks. Okay, no, I was here. Okay, so there are different convention. I'm not going into detail that there are Venice Charter is there, Hague Convention, Paris Convention, World Heritage Convention. So these are mentioned here. You can go through one by one, and then something like ratified. What is ratified? So ratified is basically uh, the parliament of that country or the one who is ruling that country has actually uh, put its signature, and they have uh, in principle agreed to follow the guidelines. So that is called ratification. Okay. CBD we have actually discussed Convention of Biological Diversity in the previous lectures. Also, ICOMOS I think is discussed Cultural Tourism Charter. Well, there are a lot of things. Quebec Declaration on Preservation of Spirit of the place. Exactly. Basically, Quebec is in Canada, so Canada is kind of a very natural place. A lot of natural beauty is there. Canada, Europe, they are very much concerned about the environment. So you will see a lot of conventions happening there actually. And then Equicon guidelines. So this was the question actually. So what is the Equicon guidelines? Okay. The Equicon guidelines were basically a kind of a voluntarily guidelines. So these are not enforced on the member nations or someone which has to follow. But this is very much related to kind of cultural or environmental and social kind of intermixing of the different impact assessments. Okay. So there are basically something like sacred sites, land, water bodies. So these are very traditional and used by the indigenous and local communities. So when I say indigenous and local communities, so you see that in India also, like many people respect kind of when you go to some villages, so there is a tree, banyan tree, people tree. So people are like very much kind of connected, feel connected to their community. So these things make part of their community itself. So that's why Equicon guidelines they actually promote these type of things. Like it kind of provides a voluntarily guidelines. So whenever you have to do a kind of impact assessment, so these things has to be taken. So they provide total. So you can see the purpose approach here. Okay, and then UNESCO CBD Convention of Biological Diversity. Okay, cultural keystone species. These were first discussed in the by the Garibaldi and Turner in their kind of discussion on some research in which they are doing. So, what is a kind of a cultural keystone species? I will give you an example, but before that, let's see the actual definition of this. So, these cultural keystone species are culturally salient species, means very important species that shape in a major way the cultural identity of a people. Their importance is reflected in the uh, just give me a minute. So in a major way shape the cultural identity of a people. Okay, so their importance is reflected in fundamental roles. These species play in diet, material, medicine, spiritual practices. So, kind of a one thing which you can see in India, there are a lot of cultural keystone species in India. So, if you see West Bengal, Sundarbans area, so tiger is cultural keystone species there. The whole thing you will see in Sundarbans revolves around tiger. When you come to Konkan belt in Maharashtra, Mumbai, then mangroves are there. Okay, in the Western Ghats there are a lot of cultural keystone species, or you can say leopards are there here. So kind of Gir forest in Gujarat, the cultural keystone species there is lion. So it can be animal also, it can be plant also. It doesn't mean that only animal will be a cultural keystone species. Okay, so keystone species like elephants, apex predator, disease vectors, dominant species are there, rare species are there, common species are there. So this is how the whole ecosystem is actually they have classified it into different species. Okay. Now coming to human health risk assessment. So we'll see more on the upcoming lecture slides. So I first complete this lecture slide and you see more in my slides. I have put a lot of effort content on this. So risk assessment. When what you feel about this risk assessment? What is a risk? Okay, and how do you perform a risk assessment for anything? Basically, in EIA, we also have to account for the risk of everything. Like if you are doing anything, what is the risk? Okay, if you are polluting the environment, if you are putting a coal power plant, pollution is coming out. What is the risk? Human health risk. Okay, so there are various guidelines like International Program of Chemical Safety (IPCS) has provided guidelines. So IPCA, WHO, there are various agencies. ILO is also there, international level organizations. So they have prepared a human health risk assessment toolkit. So this is very important toolkits. So You see various experiments also they are performed, like LD50 experiment, half-life experiment, everything is there. And there are a whole lot of concept in which they classify it as a cancerous risk or carcinogenic risk or non-carcinogenic risk. What is the point in which above which any limit cannot be tolerated? So there are a lot of things which are discussed in this document. This is a very important document if you want to study the risk impact assessment. And there are environmental assessments, so I won't go into detail here. So basically when they are talking about environmental assessment, they are basically talking about the human health and safety. So in India also there are various lending institutions which also focus on human health risk and assessment, everything is there. And in India also there are various like if you are going for a construction project, so there are OSAS guidelines are there. Human health and safety departments are also there in various companies which look after the health of the workers, laborers, everyone. Okay. Then there are performance standards. So performance standards are basically a kind of recognize the project activity. It kinds of set a guidelines, a benchmark. Okay, like International Finance Corporation made a different performance standards. We'll see in the yeah, these are the different standards. Okay, so they have listed different. No, no, not this. I think they have not. This is not in this slide. I think in upcoming slide will be there. So they have actually made some, and then corporate sustainability report (CSR) reporting is actually gaining in India. Also, any company which is having a turnover of more than 1,000 crores have to have their corporate sustainability report yearly. Okay, so this is also there. And then for minings and minerals, there are a lot of conventions, everything. So okay, now if you move to our questions, the EquiCon guidelines SCVD 2004 deals with. So what we learned there, voluntary guidelines on the cultural, environmental, social impact assessment. Okay, it's not about language or economic impact. Okay, so correct answer is answer A. Okay, you can see here cultural, environmental, and social impact assessment. Also, I put some content on this Equicon guidelines. So basically, you can see it here if you want to study. Basically, it talks about the traditional and local knowledge (TLK). Okay, Calaversary, wildness, Sana area. So there are a lot of things. I think these are different areas, and they have discussed it according to Equic guidelines. Knowledge about the environment, knowledge about the use of area management systems. Okay, so you can go and read. I have provided a link also. They have provided a whole lot of guidelines and how they can be implemented, what are the different things that are considered. Okay. Garibaldi and Tuna proposed the concept of keystone species. So yeah, this is true, correct. And what are key cultural keystone species that you know? Basically, they are very salient species or main species that basically shape the cultural identity of the people. So I put some examples also. Borneo's bearded pig. So this is a cultural keystone species there in Borneo. Okay, gardener forest, protector of their. In Andaman when you go, so there are different tribes there also. They are cultural keystone species there. Okay. In this white pine, this tree you must have seen. These are basically very much grow on the mountainous region. So they are cultural keystone species for the Kipsakik Algonquin community in Quebec. Quebec is in Canada. Okay, prevalent in legends and myths that are central to the cultural history and identity of Kipsakik psychic. The tree is said to offer protection to the people. Now, why it is so important? So, it is said to offer protection to the people because of its large size. When mature, provides home to the bald eagles. Okay, bald eagle is a kind of a species, a sacred species for Algonquin society. So, Algonquin people regard bald eagles and this tree in very sacred way. Okay, parts of the tree are also used in material goods and medicines, and the species is considered to be irreplaceable by the Kipsisaki, who rely on the services of the white pine offers to both humans and the environment. Okay, which among these had not entrenched health impact assessment as a part of ESIA. So the kind of India has not put HIA under ESIA because ESIA itself is a kind of environmental social impact assessment, kind of a very big thing. Okay, so it's, yeah, the guidelines are actually evolving, so they have not actually put very much emphasis on the HIA. Okay, so what is a health impact assessment? So before we move to the health impact assessment, I think there was some thing I wanted to show. This keystone species and their roles in ecosystem. This Okay. So if you see Shubhankar, this normal pine and white pine tree kind of the same type of species which is pine. Okay, but like different trees have different kind of regional growth are there. So normal pine would have some, if you say, some greenish color or something, and white pine should have some derived name from its bark or maybe the color of their leaves, maybe a kind of whitish tint which you can say see there. So maybe I am not sure because I don't know about this normal pine and white pine tree difference. Just uh, let's see in fact normal pine and pine tree. See. Okay, so this is kind of a, I will say, pine tree, eastern white pine. Okay, and this is eastern white pine. So kind of you can see a kind of whitish color they have. So anything which has derived its name, this must be due to its color or it's due to its characteristic which you can say. Okay. Maybe some other differences will be there, maybe in the wood also, maybe their skin or bark which they are coming, kind of their length, height, everything. So these things change according to the geography of the region. Okay. Okay. Now move to the next slide then. Now we are moving to the next lecture, that is key concepts and definitions of the Land Acquisition, Settlement and Livelihood Act. So basically there are different things which you need to know, like what is the meaning of these terms. So I will explain some of the term and leave some of these term for you guys. Okay. So basically, what are the negative impact of resettlement? Like there, if there are some projects which has to be greenfield project. Okay, greenfield is something which is coming from a scratch itself. So there will be some displacement, landlessness, lessness, joblessness, homelessness, marginalization, increased morbidity, mortality, food insecurity, loss of access to common property, social disarticulation. So there are different terms. So we will go by one, and then how we can actually uh, tackle them. Like if there is landlessness, so then we have to do land-based resettlement. So whenever we are going to give them some land, whenever we are going to resettle them, so we have to give them some land. So government in this case, like various state government also provide a kind of patta, you say in local language. Then joblessness is there. So what you can do in joblessness, like re-employment you can do. Okay. Homelessness, house construction, marginalization, social inclusion, social disarticulation, network and community rebuilding. So disarticulation, okay. So let's not explain it here. I will explain it one by one. So resettlement is kind of a planned process of relocating people and communities from one place to other. So likewise, I will take an example of a very big dam. Which dam in Uttarakhand? Uh, Tehri Dam. Okay, so Tehri Dam was a very big dam which is to be built on River Ganges or is tributary of River Ganges, kind of. So a lot of people has to move, has to be removed from their settlement and has to be shifted to some other place. So that is kind of a called resettlement. It can be of two type. One is voluntarily. Okay, people occurs in situation where project proponents have no alternative to government expropriation and enforcement mechanism, and people cannot be compelled to surrender their land. Okay, so that is voluntary resettlement. Involuntary resettlement, So resettlement is involuntary when it occurs without the informed consent of the displaced person. So you have to, government have to move them without their consent. So if they give their consent without having the power to refuse resettlement, okay. So there are two different types of resettlement are there. Eminent domain is right of a government or its agency to expropriate private property for public use and payment of a compensation. So government basically takes the land or takes the property and then pays a compensation according to the market rate or decided rate. Land expropriation negotiated agreement can be there. So basically people, household, community can negotiate also, or basically if they relinquish their rights and then they are resettled somewhere else. Compensation can be in cash or in kind also, for an asset or resource that you are going to hand over. Okay. Host population is population living in and around area to which people physically displaced by a project will be resettled into, may be affected by the resettlement. So host population is like, village A is getting to be resettled and into village B. So people of village B will be the host population. There are different kind of problems also arise due to resettlement, but basically there is no fault of people of village A, which because they had to resettle because government is taking their land for some development. So there are a lot of things which need to be there, and they are kind of the various vulnerable groups are there, like gender, ethnicity. Like if you are going to resettle the tribes from the jungle, so they are vulnerable groups. They are very much vulnerable. Their customs, everything are preserved. Their population itself is very less. Okay, project affected household, this I will not explain. Livelihood is okay. Physical displacement is also okay. You can easily, economic displacement is okay. Loss of income is there because now people of village A were basically settled. They were doing some farming. They were doing some other jobs or some other things were businesses. Now they have to resettle somewhere else. So this is kind of an economic displacement out there. Resettlement is not only a kind of putting a people from A to put it into place B. Community lost, job is lost, economic opportunity lost. Now the if there are no opportunities in village B, then they will move to some other state. Then there also people may think that they are taking our jobs. There are a lot of things that actually influence the uh, displacement and resettlement issues. Okay, cutoff date, simple date of completion of the census, asset inventory, all these things are there. Environmental and social framework by, so these are different frameworks. Equator principle. So basically, it is intended to serve a common baseline risk management framework for financial institutions. So this is for financial institutions to identify, assess, and management environment and social risk when financing projects. So basically what happens when you are going to compare some products, so you need to define a baseline like this. For this year, this is the parameters and these are the values for this year. Now after 5 years you are gonna see, or after every some specific time period, so you need to have a baseline to compare the values whether it is going down or going up, everything. Okay, like in case of census, what you do, you do it every decade and then you know ki our population is increasing or decreasing. Okay, so there are a lot of things which you can risk here. Equator principles, banks. So the Equator principle is a sustainability framework for global finance industry. So basically, they are very much related to the financing institutions. Okay, and IFC, International Finance Corporation standards are basically applied in case of Equator principle also. Okay, the key objectives of best practice resettlement. So there are key objectives like what can be the best practice in case of resettlement. So to avoid, and when avoidance is not possible, minimize displacement by exploring alternative project design. So you can change the project design itself so that minimum uh, uh, displacement or resettlement should be there. Forced eviction should be avoided. Uh, minimize adverse social and economic impacts from land acquisition. So these things which you can do, these can be asked in the questions as exam also. So please read it very carefully. Okay, there can be 2 3 objectives and say now what are the best practices for the resettlement. Choose the correct option. Okay, land procurement. The things are I think. Resettlement action plan for favor social impacts. Now social impacts of the projects. Okay, so there can be different things like environment, land, people, community, culture, livelihood, infrastructure. So these whole things concerns people's well-being and kind of a social inclusion, or you can say different aspects of social behavior of the people. So these are different. So these things have to be taken care of when you are going to do some projects and everything. Okay, so we'll read more about this in upcoming lectures. So before that, let's see some questions from here. So we had done it from here. Health impact assessment basically is a approach. Now we were talking about health impact assessment. This is not included in the Indian ESIA. So it basically just the potential effect of a policy, program, or project on the population, particularly on the vulnerable or disadvantaged group. Okay, so they actually examine the effect on the population, but more focusing on vulnerable groups. Like if there is some asthma, so is kind of pregnant women are getting affected. All those things are actually looked into. So health impact assessment, similar steps are the screening, scoping, appraisal, reporting, and monitoring, like we have in EIA. Screening, what should be carried out screening, how to carry out screening. So these are different things. These are my information. I put it in the slide so you can read it. Most of the things are very much related to EIA itself. Okay. Scoping stage, screening stage, appraisal. Appraisal is kind of analyzing the data. Okay. Basically, evidence which are gathered. Reporting, then we report it. What are the effects, everything, and then we monitor as the final spec. Other impact assessment tools, like we are talking about different assessment tools, like one is environmental impact assessment, second is health impact assessment, third is ESIA or social impact assessment, SIA. Other impact assessment tools can be risk assessment is one of the tool, cost benefit analysis also is one of the tool. Okay, so basically this you can so I think in week 11 or 10 or 11 cost benefit analysis, there is some content on the cost benefit analysis also. Match the terms given in group A with the transition project outcomes in group B. So increased morbidity. So basically what you can do, if morbidity is basically death rate. So improved healthcare, loss of access, what you can say, loss of access. So restoration of community assets or services. Social disarticulation, so you can promote network and community rebuilding. So correct answer is answer B. State true or false. According to cultural keystone species Garibaldi and Turner, culturally salient species that shape in a major way of culture. So this is actually a true statement. So this is kind of a, I have given example. Rice can also be a cultural keystone species. Let's see here in the Philippines traditional agro ecosystem. Eminent domain, so there are different definition which you were there. So basically eminent domain is a right of a government or its agent, basically municipal corporation or PSUs, to expropriate private property for public use without the payment of compensation. So that is called eminent domain. So they don't pay any compensation, but they have the right to do it. So we'll talk about this more in the upcoming slides also. So this you can match. Resettlement is basically planned process of relocating people. Economic displacement is loss of income streams. Compensation is payment in cash or kind. And then host population is people living around area to which people physically displaced by project will be resettled into. Okay. Straight true or false. So before moving to that, let's any questions. Sangeeta has asked what is the difference between risk and hazard. Okay, so Sangeeta, basically hazard is something which has a potential to cause damage to the human. Okay, So if there is some pointing thing, a pointed thing, if you are working on a construction site and there is some pointed thing, a kind of a rod, so that poses a health hazard. So it can damage it can damage anything to your body. So that constitutes a hazard. Okay, risk are something which has a effect, a kind of which you can say, like there is a risk of pollution is a kind of risk. So risk are basically kind of evaluating the potential effect of that hazard. Okay, kind of what risk it poses. Okay, so more detail, we will discuss more detail in the upcoming slides where these two words will be cleared actually. But hazard is kind of a that has a potential to cause damage. The risk is kind of a, we measure the effects. What kind of risk is there? Okay, like pollution, the effect of pregnancy. These are kind of risk. Okay. So now we will discuss about this. There is land acquisition in Indian context. So first thing is the right to property. So right to property is not a fundamental right. This is first thing which you remember. Now what is a fundamental right? Fundamental right is a basic right which kind of, because you are a human, you have some rights as a part of your existence. That is fundamental right, a kind of basic right without which you cannot live in this world. Okay, so anyone, if it is guaranteed by constitution, nobody can take it from you. Like right to speech, right to give speech is a fundamental right. There are some limitations in case you cannot give hate speech, but yeah, right to expression is fundamental right. But right to property is not a fundamental right. It is kind of a legal right under Article 300A, kind of you can say constitutional right. It is mentioned in the constitution itself, but it is not a fundamental right. Okay, so government can take your land, and there are different laws in which government has made that they will compensate you also. So right to fair compensation and transparency in land acquisition act is there. This is passed in 2013. So you can have basically there are different things like a human participative approach, least determines to the owners, provide just and fair compensation. Okay, provision of affected persons. Sometimes affected person become partners in development. So they are those who are resettled can be provided jobs in the companies. So as per the provision of this act concern land acquisition, compensation, rehabilitation and settlement. So there are different purposes which you can see, basically public safety, development work, national security, all these things are there. Uh, Infrastructure projects, application, housing, plan development, residential purposes. Okay. What are scheduled areas? Scheduled areas are defined in section 2 of the provision of the Panchayat extension to scheduled areas act. A small farmer is a cultivator with an unirrigated land holding up to 2 hectares or with an irrigated land holding up to 1 hectare. So please be careful when I am talking about these definitions, because these can be asked in the exam. Small farmer, dash, they can ask. Okay. Social impact assessment study. Okay. So public hearing of social impact assessment, basically stakeholder involvement. Okay, local language, what is the effect on local language? There are language impact assessment are also done. Actually, what can be the impact on language if you are going for a development project? Safeguard for food security, rehabilitation and resettlement scheme. So collector, the administrator required to conduct a survey. Okay. Particulars on lands and immovable properties will be recorded. Livelihood lost will be recorded. List of public utilities and government buildings. Okay. Amenity infrastructure facilities and common property resources. Okay. So that all will be recorded. And there are rehabilitation settlement scheme. So basically awards should be made within the period of 12 months from the date of publication of declaration under section 19. And if no award is made within that period, the entire proceeding of the acquisition of land shall lapse. Okay. So within 12 months, you have to have all these things done. You cannot say we will give after 3-4 years. Okay. Determination of market value of land by the collector. So basically district magistrate act as a collector here. Determination of the amount of compensation. And what are the parameters? So market value, damage sustained, There are different things which are basically looked into when they uh, actually come up with the value that has to be provided as a compensation. As far as possible, no acquisitions shall be land made in the scheduled areas. Okay, done only if no demonstrated last resort, where consent of the Gram Sabha is needed, and laying down detailed procedure, everything will be done. And there are various special provision also. So these you can read for like at least one third of compensation shall be paid to the affected family initially as a first installment, so that they can settle themselves. Okay, alienation of tribal lands. There are a lot of things which are considered. This is a very good act. Actually, you all should read this act. So these slides, if you are going through, this is the kind of act which we are talking about. So you can read it actually. Okay. Now we move to the right to property, not a fundamental right. This is true. Right to Fair Compensation Act, Land Acquisition, Regulation, Resettlement makes provisions for social impact assessment. So correct answer is social impact assessment, not climatic impact assessment, biophysical health. These are not considered. So, but now the terms come. What is a social impact assessment? So before that, let me see if there are any questions. Sangeeta has said, okay, thanks. Right to life, Article 21A. Yeah, the right to life is a very broad act, actually, broad fundamental right. Even a lot of things, Indian Supreme Court has actually included a lot of things, including the right to life itself. So basically, they have said that if there is a right to life, so you cannot live in a polluted environment. So pollution, cleaning of pollution, they have put onus on the government to clean the rivers, to provide clean drinking water. So all these things actually included in the right to life. Okay. So yeah, this is quite good, Sangeeta. You have read very good actually. Right to life, Article 21A. Let's move to the social impact assessment. So before we proceed further, it's already 4:02, so let's have a break for 5 minutes, 5 to 7 minutes, so that you guys can go through the previous things which I have taught, and if there are any questions, please feel free to ask. Okay. Okay, if there are no questions, then I think we should move forward then. So this is lecture 4 actually, socio-economic impact assessment and resource efficiency. Basically, first thing is concept of social impact. So what consists of a social impact? So social impact are changes to one or more to the following. What are the different changes? People's way of life, culture, community, political systems, environment, health and well-being, personal and property rights. So if there is any change to one or more of the following, that is called a social impact. So basically, there is a United Nations Human Rights Council (UNHRC) 1948, which basically declares a universal human rights. You can say many of them are also included in our constitution also as fundamental right. UNHRC. So these are various basically what prompted them to make a UNHRC. There were marine gold mine development in Guatemala. You can say kind of different rights were curtailed. This is Teddy copper and gold mine in Papua New Guinea. Okay, so basically human rights impact assessment reports were there. Various reports were done by Oxfam and other institutes. Training manuals are there. You can see about these operations when they were building. There were a lot of violations of human rights and how what are the different standards. So basically, based on that, International Finance Corporation has come up with different performance standards. Like performance standard one includes assessment and management of environmental and social risk impact assessment. Similarly, for labor, resource efficiency, community. So, what are performance standard one? So, integrated assessment of the identify the environmental and social impact, risk, opportunity of project, effective community engagement through disclosure of project related information and consultation with the local community. So whenever you are building something, so total disclosure of the different facts and data to the local community, okay, with the stakeholders. Client management of environmental and social performance throughout the life of the project. So there are different standards like for indigenous people performance standard 7 is there. Labor performance standard 2 is there. Labor and working conditions. It talks about labor and working conditions. So they are basically developed by International Labor Organization and United Nations. Okay, so you can go through and read these standards. We'll see more about this in the upcoming video by International Labor Organization itself on the performance standards. Basically, the key concept includes social license to operate. Basically, stakeholders have actually promoted. So it is better to involve the stakeholders when you are going to build something, and free prior informed consent is very important. Basically, you are going to inform them about the different thing, different facts which are going to have, and then they basically based on the informed decision, these stakeholders make decisions. So they have the right to self determination actually. Human right due diligence is there. Non-technical risks like managerial, legal, social, political issues faced by the project. So these are non-technical risks. Like there can be various political issues like strikes, labor engagement, etc. So if you see World Bank how World Bank defines the social risk, it is basically possibility of intervention that would create, reinforce or deepen inequity or social conflict that the attitudes and actions of key stakeholders may subvert the achievement of development objective or that the development objective or means to achieve it lack ownership among key stakeholders. Okay, so this is what means the basically it talks about the stakeholder and the development objectives. So how do you achieve it? How you involve them also? Okay, sustainable livelihood, shared value, creating shared value rather than just property, profit. Equator principles. There were questions. The Equator principle is a corporate social responsibility and sustainability framework for global finance industry. Okay, social license. So these things are very important when you are talking about the risk, and there are various lesser regulations also like guidance. Green book is there. Environmental protection and biodiversity conservation act of Australian government, very important, very good act you can say. Resource efficiency is also defined in a performance standard by the IFC, International Finance Corporation. You can go through these different performance standards, and then United Nations Environment, they come up with annual report every year. These reports are very good. They do a lot of assessment and they NEPA with EIA process implemented this concept in 1969. So this we also always know that NEPA is the lead front runner in EIA. Let's move to before that we move to the transport project everything. I think we can look into, there are not much thing. Basically we'll talk about the different five types of EIA and rest of the things which you can go by yourself also. So before that let me uh, solve the assignment questions here. So right to fair compensation and transparency in land acquisition, rehabilitation and resettlement Act 2020 makes provision for, basically it makes provision for only prior consent. Okay. It doesn't makes provision for payment of compensation return of unutilized land. Okay. So correct answer is only one. What are the key objectives of IFC Performance Standard 2? So Performance Standard 2 was, you remember Performance Standard 2? I don't have to. Okay, that was very much related to labor. So compliance is relevant labor employment and labor laws, and safety and healthy working condition of the labor. Okay, so only one and two, and then fair treatment, non-discrimination for the labor, worker protection, so all these things are related to labor and basically working conditions. So all these are actually included in IFC Performance Standard 2, which is all of them also correct. So before that, we also let us read you about this performance. Okay. So social license to operate is basically level of acceptance or approval of the activities by an organization. So it's kind of a level of acceptance by organization stakeholders, especially local impacted communities. Free, prior, and informed consent is basically a procedural mechanism was developed to assist to ensure the right of the indigenous people to self-determination. And then our social risk that I defined there, basically World Health Organization definition, the possibility of intervention. So correct answer is option C, P3, Q1, R2. Now match the EIA typologies with as given by World Bank Guide 1997 for the road projects of Group A with their Group B. So before we do that, these two questions, let us go back to the slides itself. So five types of environmental impact assessments are applied to road projects. So these are not only road projects itself, uh, kind of applied to any project. So project specific EIA, like assessing new road projects or public transport infrastructure, like line one of metro, Mumbai Metro, or line Shahadra to Ghitorni line of Delhi Metro, a kind of a new road. So just I am giving you an example, a project specific. Programmatic EIA, examining a number of individual projects that may be delivered together as a package. So there are two, three different roads connectivity. A circular ring road, then connecting road, link road. So this is programmatic EIA. Summary environmental evaluation focusing on specific categories of impact and their mitigation. So specific categories can be a link road, a village road, okay. Regional EIA, examining all the planned project within a specified geographical area or subnational level, like state, within the state. So let's say EIA for all the roads in Maharashtra or Tamil Nadu or Kerala. Okay, sectoral EIA, strategic assessing all projects of certain types, such as transport infrastructure in relatively large geographical area. So let's say road EIA of road infrastructure in India, or EIA of metro in uh, all India. So this type of sectoral EIA is there. Okay, or EIA for the waterways in Ganges River. Okay, so this type of thing can be done. Now moving to the questions. So project specific EIA, but assessing new individual roads. So P2 programmatic EIA, Q1 examining several individual projects that may be delivered together as a package. Sectoral EIA is basically study assessing certain types transport infrastructure. Okay. Regional EIA is examining all the plant projects within a specified geographical region. So correct answer is answer A. Uh, these are simple things, you can do it yourself also. P2 basically regional EIA, assess the cumulative potential of projects. Central EIA, sorry, to assess the compensation of potential projects, geographical area or administrative region that might have. Botswana guidance is basically to achieve a comprehensive technical basis for decision making through integrating environmental impact assessment into the planning process. So Botswana guidance basically says ki when you are doing EIA, then whatever the results of EIA is there. So planning process, the results should be used. So in technical, basically in decision making process for EIA. The EIA is incorporated in the decision making process itself. Okay. So correct answer is answer A. Now we move to the what is this? So there were different things like resource efficiency. So I put two videos, very important videos are there, so you can see. So before that, let me see if there are any questions, anything which you guys want to ask. No. Okay. uh, I think it's already 1 hour and 50 minutes. So if there are any questions regarding the slides, like you see, there are different things like benefits, objective of the REA, okay, EIA, sectoral EIA, regional impact assessment, promoter assessment, European Investment Bank. So they have actually also, so basically various banks, and they have promoted guidelines also. Indian guidelines, guidelines of the environmental impact assessment or highways project. There are various guidelines for India also. So this was basically for transportation modes. So you can see the guidelines and the standards, the discharge of fluents, Indian Road Congress Code for Practical Highway Projects. Lot of things are there. Clubbing the land use, so sustainable transport modes had to be promoted. What are the sustainable transport modes? Basically public transports. Act projects, so UK National Park project. New Zealand, very good country, known for its serene environment and beautiful views. National Park Act, European landscape. So you can see the landscape here. If everything is not polluted, you can see how clean it is, how beautiful, how clean. Guidance on visual simulation is also there. You can see here. You can see the changes. So this was before existing, after building simulated view. This is from software, and this is as built view after building. Okay. So there are a lot of things and guidelines. So you don't need to go through each and every guideline, but yeah, you need to understand what is in them. And if there are any questions in the exam, then you need to answer them. Okay. And there are several videos also which you can see. So Professor has given link for various videos we can see from here. Some of the videos are actually I incorporated in my slides so that you guys are able to see these videos. So please go and see them actually. They are very good videos. Here also we'll have some, you can see. And there is anything which you want to ask, please feel free to ask. Okay. So if there are no questions, then I think we can conclude this session here. And if you have any questions on EIA or related lectures, then please feel free to ask it here on my email ID, or you can raise it in the next session or discussion forum also. Okay, thank you all. Thank you for attending this session. Yeah, anyone has any question? Yes, Sangeeta. Yeah, it's okay. I always encourage asking questions. You can ask any question. Hmm. Okay. Hmm. Fecal bacteria is there. Okay, so you want my comment on that? You want my comment or you want technical answer to that? Okay. See, see, this is what I can't comment on that. Is it true or not? Okay, because I don't have the reports. If you give me the report, I can see those reports and then comment. But yeah, huh. Yeah, that's why I want to give you a technical answer to that. A technical answer is basically when there is lot of people bathing in this type of river, so there are various different parameters related to water: BOD, COD, dissolved oxygen, pH, color, odor. In bacteria also we see fecal coliform bacteria, E. coli. So there are different things which we consider before going into this water quality parameter. There are indexes also like water quality index. All these things are there. So generally, crores of people generally, I in regular flows, since Ganga is a regular flow river. Okay, the water is flowing. So if it is getting polluted, then the pollutants are basically dissolved. So the level of pollutants will be less compared to. But since on some day like Mahasnan or Mahakumbh days, many people, like crores of people bath on the single day, like 2 crores people are taking bath. So there may be issues that in a localized content where people are bathing, there may be some portions where these water quality will have surely have a dip. This is the technical answer. Surely this will dip. This is the technical answer. Now, there are two reports which I saw in the news. One is from CPCB, one is from UPCB. So CPCB has made a submission. He didn't give a date, like on which date they have taken the sample. They have said that sample had fecal coliform bacteria. So where does this fecal coliform bacteria comes from? These generally comes from the sewage which comes into the Ganga river. So the government of the state is saying that this was from the previous, like before the Kumbh started. So they have tapped all the sewage there. So generally the sewage are tapped, so level of fecal coliform bacteria will be less. They don't uh, go by themselves. They generally come from the sewage itself. Generally, from bathing, we can't say fecal coliform bacteria will be more. Okay, from bathing itself, generally they come from sewerage system. Okay, so if they have tapped all the sewerage system and cleaned those sewerage and then put it into Ganga river, so fecal coliform level will be okay, normal or maybe somewhat greater than normal. Okay, so this is the correct technical answer. Anything else you want to know, Sangeeta? They can always go down. So see what see what can be called a pollutant. A pollutant is a kind of a, basically CO2 is a pollutant. Okay, but before industrial revolutions, nobody was concerned about CO2. CO2 was not a pollutant. Why it became pollutant? Because after industrial revolution, the level of CO2 shot up. This is the case. The level of CO2 shot up, and now it started causing global warming and all those problems. So localized concentration is very important when you are defining a pollutant. Okay, they give value in mg per meter cube. Okay, so if it is dispersed, like we have in power plants, chimney stacks are built to height so that in the upper atmosphere the pollutants are dispersed. It is not affecting human health, so they are not polluting. Okay, so if the pollutants are there but flow is running water and it is getting dispersed to a bigger channel of Ganga river, so if you measure the value, you need to represent it in the mg per normal meter cube of water. So if the value is less than the standard specific value given by the CPCB guidelines, so it is not polluting. The water is good. Okay, this is how we measure the water. Okay, anything else? No, 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 no. This you can't say. Kumbh Mela will certainly have effect because people are getting lot of people are bathing, but the government of the state is saying that they have put in some extra measures to tackle all these kind of problems. Okay, so we will go through the government, whatever government is saying, because government is the authority to say anything in these type of cases. So basically, they have various checks like NGT checking, National Green Tribunal is checking. So they will similarly direct anyone or CPCB person to go and get the testing done and submit the report. They will ask then the government, like you were saying that everything is under control, but the reports are saying something otherwise. Okay, so these checks and balances are there in the Indian systems. You, if you are polluting the river, if you are not controlled, don't worry. Media, testing agency, they are going to put question on you. No, no, it's okay. But it can't be say that faith is superseding the bathing from people doesn't put a lot of what you say. pollution in. They bathing in the, like if you are going to bath in the river earlier also, before the industrial revolution, people generally, villages were more, all the people generally bathed in the rivers itself. Okay, now people are not bathing, they are bathing in their homes. Earlier people used to bath in the river itself because they don't have the motor and boring and hand pump. There were wells, either they bath near the well or they generally go to the river for the bath. Even in the villages you will see most of the people go to the nearby river for the bath. So bathing itself doesn't uh, contribute a lot of pollutants. Okay, until unless you are putting some chemical to it, like chemical in the form of soap and detergent. But I don't think people are using detergents there. Soap are okay. Okay, soap are generally fatty acids. Huh. So they are managing waste now. They are managing waste. I think they have some contractual agency there. They are managing waste there. Similarly, yeah, always there will be waste because see, what can be waste? Flowers, some puja samagris, and then plastic bottles will be there. So I've seen some videos where they have put floated waste collectors also. I've seen some videos where they have, uh, but yeah, there will be, if you are going to measure the, if they are putting lot of plastics in there, so plastic generally have tendency to break down into small particles, microparticles, microplastic, the word which you have. But these they also generally need 1 or 2 years to break down. If they are collecting before getting converted degradation, that's okay. It's okay. But people has to be responsible sometimes. They should not throw plastic bottles or lace wrappers, everything on the river. Flowers itself is okay. Flowers can degrade. Flowers are basically natural things, so it's okay. See, we are technical persons, so we will generally we can't comment on faith. People will follow their faith. Our job is to clean the river. Simple. If there is some pollutants, we will clean it. Okay, this is what is our responsibility, and to promote people not to pollute it. Okay. We can create awareness among them. Don't put those particles which are polluting. Bathing itself, bathing in the river doesn't make create any pollution to the river. Not much pollution. Okay, okay. Because localized area, now there is, I think 7 to 8 kilometers of ghats are there on which like 2 3 crores people or 10 crore people are coming. So yeah, and there may be localized pollution, but generally localized pollution are for one or 2 days they survive. Then after that, the flow of the river will clean it. Okay. Okay, welcome. Swarnendu has asked, what is the Universal Declaration on Human Rights primarily concerned with in the EIA? So basically, Swarnendu, what happened is that we have this fundamental rights itself. So right to property is kind of a constitutional right here, not a fundamental right. There are also basic rights like right to liberty, right to life, which Sangeeta said also. So these things, when you are talking about people and their involvement in the project, development project. So if you are going to do any development, there certainly will have some impact on the people also. So this is where the UNDHCR, United Nations Declaration on Human Rights. Okay, so this is where it comes into play. So if you will see this document, most of the fundamental rights, sorry, rights listed here are also enshrined in our constitution also, like right to freedom, right to life. All these things are there. Basically, rights are not implemented. Rights are basically guaranteed. Okay. Right is guaranteed to the people. If there is a violation of right, then you can approach the courts, Supreme Court, High Court. You can directly approach the court. So, in basic terms, I will give you an example. Let's say I have seen many examples here. Like people has approached the court that there is a pollution in my area. Government is not taking care of my fundamental right to life is actually affected. So you can see a connection between these two. Okay. Kind of. Basically, when you are talking about these type of human rights or fundamental rights, so they are generally guaranteed against the state. By state means government of the country, government of the state, government of PSUs are also included in the definition of government. Okay. Exactly, they will have basically no knowledge about this. Okay. Uh, kind of something which is very much linked with the environment. Not all the rights. There are a lot of rights which are enshrined in our constitution or as a basic human rights. Basically, kind of a simple thing which you say roti, kapda, and makan. It's a basic right, basic need, basic right. So, if you are talking about resettlement, then these three rights are actually affected always. Okay. Okay. So thank you all. Thank you for attending this session. And it was a wonderful session discussing with you people. I always encourage discussion, and that's good that you people are discussing. Okay. So thank you. We will meet again at on the next week from 3 to 5 p.m. Okay. Thank you.